The self-described ideal mother, reality TV, queen and person who has spent years advocating for devotion and family values, Yandy Smith was revealed in the most startling way imaginable because, guess what? Not only did Yandy lose her temper, but she also touched Lil Mendeecees. You heard correctly. Yandy gave Lil Mendeecees a face smack as though it were. The worst thing was that Mrs. caught her in the act. Imagine returning home to discover your wife slapping your son and Mrs. throwing her out of the house in front of Lil Maze, the neighbors, and even the paparazzi, rather than confronting her. Messy Baby was done, despite Yandy's best efforts to downplay it and defend herself. Now, the internet is making fun of Yandy. Is Yandy going to lose everything? And how long has this been going on? The receipts are juicy, so you better settle in for this one. I promise you that this mess is more disorganized than anything we have ever seen, so let's investigate it in detail. Everything you thought you knew about Yandy Smith and Ems Harris will change after you hear what you're about to hear. This reputation has the potential to ruin your career. It's not simply some pointless reality TV drama. You need to know how it all happened, so let's take it back. The so-called power couple of hip-hop and love, Yandy Smith and Ems Harris, have supported one another through financial hardships, cheating scandals, and even Ems' incarceration. Yandy has presented herself as the supporting wife and the perfect stepmother to Lil Mez, in spite of all the stress. In interviews, she has been seen smiling for the cameras as she discusses how challenging. Insiders close to the family claim that months ago, Yandy's attitude toward Lil Mendeecees shifted. Small, passive-aggressive comments, sidelong glances, and icy emotions were the first signs. Lil Mendeecees started to distance himself from Yandy, spend more time with his pals, and initially even stop posting on social media. Initially, it was keeping the family together while Mez was incarcerated and acting as the family's glue. I had assumed that he was simply experiencing the typical teenage emotions, but this was more than that. Messy apparently observed the shift as well and began to inquire, but Yandy brushed it off, pointing to Lil M's rude demeanor. But when it became clear that Yandy was bullying Lil Mendeecees, rather than only making fun of him, the truth started to surface. According to rumors, Yandy has been having trouble staying together ever since Messy came home. According to insiders, Yandy was experiencing stress, frustration, and pressure, and Mez was not earning as much money as she once did. One insider said that Yandy started to despise Lil Mendeecees because she felt like she was doing everything, including managing the house, operating the company, and parenting the children. At first, it was only verbal abuse, but that's when the emotional abuse started. Lil Mendeecees allegedly started being called ungrateful, lazy, and a burden by Yandy. According to accounts, Yandy would turn hostile when Lil Mendeecees didn't listen when things became physical. She allegedly ripped his phone out of his hand so violently that it broke, and she would grasp his arm and push him away. But what transpired next might have been the decisive factor, because one evening when Mez got home early from a business trip, it seemed like Yandy and Lil Mez had a quick disagreement earlier in the day about something ridiculous, probably something to do with schoolwork or. Lil Mez mistakenly believed that the chores were done. As soon as he stepped through the front door, he knew something wasn't quite right. Dropping his backpack, he hurried up the stairs straight to Lil M's room when he heard Yandy's voice shouting from upstairs. He noticed Yandy standing over Lil M, yelling at him when he opened the door. Yandy's hand slapped Lil Mez as the poor kid, who was sobbing and leaning against the wall, appeared terrified. Yes, Lil Mez was smacked across the face by Yandy Smith, the same woman who has spent years preaching about hip-hop, love, and family values, as though he were a total stranger. I've seen it firsthand, sweetheart, and before Yandy could raise her hand once again, he leaped forward, seized her arm, and cried out, "Have you lost your damn mind?" Yandy was traumatized. Lil Mez was in tears, and Mendeecees was positioned between them like a shield. While Yandy stammered as she attempted to clarify, but Miss Hess was not paying attention. "Are you crazy that you touched my son?" Yandy broke down in tears. Yandy's jaw dropped when I instructed her to go, even though she claimed that Lil Meese was misbehaving and needed to be reprimanded. She tried to argue while standing there in disbelief, but M was not paying attention. He snatched her bag from the closet and hurled it at her feet. First, pack your things and head out. He took up the phone and contacted security, even though Meese assumed he was bluffing. Indeed, Messes summoned security to check on his wife, and within minutes, 2 security officers showed up at the residence. He just stood with his arms crossed and took Yandy out while she continued to cry and beg him. He interrupted her as she attempted to plead with him one final time. "After what he did to my son, do you still intend to stay here?" "Absolutely not. And you too." Yandy hid her face and was utterly ashamed. Cameras flashed and Mrs. stood there, emotionless and without regret, watching her go. The hashtag Yandy expunged trended for an hour on social media as the news went global in a matter of minutes. Yandy was being pulled around by barbarians, and in the belief that no one would notice, he even slapped a youngster. Yandy's career is gone, and Mrs. made the right decision. Even Tamar Braxton and other celebs joined in. I liked the post suggesting that abuse isn't cute, so I realized something wasn't right with Yandy Cardi. Shielded his son. Rashuna concluded by sharing an Instagram story in which she advised believing individuals when they revealed their true selves. In addition to losing her fan base and brand deals, Yandy wasn't finished yet, so that's not even the worst part. Yandy, you know what? This woman had the gall to knock on M's door the next day. On the door crying, but Meese only glared at her before slamming it in her face when he opened it. The paparazzi then showed up. Cameras flashing, questions flying, and Yandy covering her face in utter humiliation. Although the harm was done, this story is far from over because, believe me, Meese is not yet done exposing Yandy, and the ramifications from this controversy will only grow worse. Messy baby, you're not ready for what's about to happen because, guess what? Yandy would not pass away in peace. Nope, the woman who was expelled from the house in front of the entire neighborhood after being caught slapping Lil Mendeecees is planning a comeback, and her current behavior is fishy as heck. It didn't take long for this complex scenario to turn into a full-scale conflict. Yandy's mascara was still running when security let her out of the residence. Most people would have left the scene with her reputation in ruins and the cameras recording every moment of her collapse. But rather than keeping quiet, Yandy went into full damage control mode, contacting others in the industry to try to alter the story and undermine her attempts to spin it. People familiar with the matter said that Yandy called her public relations team right away and started writing a statement. This woman is attempting to play the victim after being caught red-handed touching Lil Men right before. This isn't it, Yandy, but it gets worse because according to her account of events, Lil Men had been acting out and testing her boundaries, and she lost her anger. She attempted to portray herself as the victim of the circumstance, as though she were merely attempting to correct a rude child. Please pardon me. According to reports, Yandy instructed her public relations staff that regaining M's favor was her top goal because, let's be honest, she wasn't going to let that love and hip-hop money go away. One source claims that Yandy made a last-ditch effort to put things right since she understands that if this doesn't work out, she might lose everything: her reputation, her business, and her place on the show. Yandy returned to the residence the next day, less than 24 hours after being evicted. She looked as if she had been crying all night and was wearing a simple outfit with little makeup. Crocodile tears poured out when Meese opened the door. She was crying, trembling, and begging for another opportunity. Mendeecees, please, I made a mistake. We've experienced too much together for you to simply discard me in this manner, even though I know I did. Meese remained silent while crossing her arms. Lil M's had reached the door, standing behind his father, and he didn't seem to be feeling anything. I love you. I love our family. I just lost control, and I didn't mean to hurt him at this point. Lil MD looked at Yandy and said, You hit me, oh baby. You didn't mean to hurt me. Despite Yandy's momentary facial freeze, it was clear that Lil Mendeecees was done, and he wasn't falling for it either. Dispute, but Mendeecees stepped in and informed Lil Mendeecees that if she couldn't respect my son, she didn't deserve to live here. Baby Yandy wasn't done yet though, since he closed the door in her face. Yandy apparently rushed to social media right away, posting a long, emotional Instagram story about how hard it is to be a mom and how stressed out she has been lately. She presented it as a unique incident, but she didn't dispute what had transpired. The responses read, "Oh, they weren't having it, bro. You slapped the child. There's no coming back from that. You weren't stressed. You were abusive. Stop trying to play the victim." Tamar Braxton responded to the tweet, "Accountability isn't that hard, sis." Cardi B posted a shady IG story that said, "Stress? Nobody's perfect," she said. "I just hope people can see that I'm trying my hardest. I made a mistake, but I'm human." Isn't an excuse for violence, but Rashiva's most brutal response was when she went live and said, "See, that's why I stay out of other people's business, because when the truth comes out, phew." She then took a sip of her wine and added, "Yandy was still plotting even after all that backlash." It appears that she started reaching out to producers from Love and Hip Hop in an attempt to influence how this scandal was handled. Yes, Yandy thought she could make this a redemption arc, and it was being edited for the next season. A production-related insider claims that Yandy is trying to advance the plot because she is yearning to play the victim and knows it will occur on the show. Because, let's face it, messy drama equals views. The producers were consuming it. However, when Yandy was out there trying to spin the story because she was already taking the next step, sources claim that Mendeecees has already spoken with his attorneys and is considering a divorce. Mendeecees isn't playing, feels duped, and isn't sure he can ever trust Yandy again, according to an insider. Mendeecees is determined to make sure that nothing like this happens again, so if that wasn't enough, he has also been in touch with Child Protective Services. Everything you need to know is revealed by the fact that Mendeecees is even considering getting a divorce. About the gravity of this, and Yandy is in a panic. She seems to have already started calling mutual friends to try to persuade them to talk to Mendeecees on her behalf, but Mendeecees is not taking any notice. A source claims that Mendeecees is done and is more concerned about keeping his son safe than repairing his marriage. Can you really blame him? The true query, though, is what Yandy's future in terms of hip-hop and love will be like if Mendeecees goes through with the divorce. Ultimately, Yandy's entire plot was about being the helpful wife, and Yandy's role on the show appears to be in serious jeopardy without me. This narrative is far from being over, though, since Mendeecees is out there making moves while Yandy is out there attempting to repair her reputation, and the way things are going, Yandy is going to lose much more than just her marriage. You'll all be shocked by the story's next turn as well. You won't be ready for what comes next if you thought this story couldn't get any stranger. It looks like Yandy is about to make one of the biggest comebacks in reality TV history, but it remains to be seen if it will succeed or if she will suffer the greatest setback of her career. The consequences of this incident have just escalated to a new level, so let's continue where we left off. Yandy, wasn't going to simply leave this mess with her head down. Instead, she's out here planning her next move. Yandy's face, effectively telling her that she was finished. The internet wasn't buying it this time, so she went into full damage control mode in the hopes that some crocodile tears and public pity would help things. The scathing comments on her little "I'm only human" Instagram post went viral. People heard Lil M's side of the tale, saw the receipts, and weren't in the mood to let Yandy off the hook, so they didn't accept the stress excuse. In one response, someone wrote, "Girl, we saw the video. Yandy made the correct decision, but because she wasn't ready to let her career end without a fight, things took a strange turn." Yes, you read correctly. Yandy immediately sought legal counsel after being discovered slapping Lil Mendeecees. The hashtags "Judgment for Me," Yandy exposed, and "Protect Lil M at all costs" trended for days after someone else commented, "Protect Lil M at all costs." According to sources, Yandy's legal team immediately began working on a custody lawsuit. Yandy said Mies was turning Lil Niece against her and making her feel cut off from the family. "I'm sorry, but you're telling me that Yandy's attempt to play victim mother after smacking Lil Mies is some kind of illusion?" Yandy reportedly claimed that Mies was emotionally abusing her by using the child and kicking her out of the house without reason. She even tried to give the impression that this was a Yandy's attorneys tried to set up a meeting to discuss custody, but Mendeecees told her to talk to my lawyer a few times. This was part of a larger pattern of emotional abuse from Mendeecees, another insider said. He claimed that Yandy's whole plan is to change the story, claiming that she might be able to re-enter the house and M's life if she can make herself out to be the victim. However, he wasn't cooperating, because Yandy wanted to win the PR war as much as she was attempting to win this battle in court. When I contacted her former media contacts, they started leaking articles all over the place. All of a sudden, blogs began sharing stories of Yandy's years of emotional stress and Mendeecees' domineering behavior. M's toxic control even appeared in one headline. After Yandy went too far, things became sour. "Oh, now you're the victim. You slapped the kid, and now you're crying about being controlled, girl. Sit down and mess around. Oh, baby. He wasn't about to let you have your way." At last, the truth about Yandy becomes public, and guess who is cited as the source? The internet didn't believe it. A close friend of Yandy. A few days after Yandy's team leaked those stories, Mendeecees sat down for an exclusive interview with a major entertainment outlet. He didn't hold back when he said, "I don't care what Yandy says to the press. She knows what she did. My son knows what she did. And anyone trying to twist this into something else wasn't there." DC shut down when the interviewer asked if there was any chance of reconciliation. It was immediately removed following the incident, and he then said the line that went viral. "If you put your hands on my son, you don't deserve to be in my life, baby Mendeecees." One commenter said he was correct, while another said, "Protect Lil Mendeecees at all costs." But Yandy wasn't done yet, as she used her last ploy after M's interview went viral to go live on Instagram. And you guys, this was one of the most pathetic things I've ever seen. Yandy was seated on her couch, rocking back and forth and talking in a soft, tremulous voice. Her hair was unkempt, and her eyes were swollen as though she had been crying for hours. Mies is aware of my shortcomings and how much I've tried, but she also knows how much I adore that boy. Then she started sobbing resentfully. "Since I'm only human and not a nasty person, I sincerely hope that others would pardon me." Girl, stop being a victim. The worst thing was that Mendeecees was out there pursuing legal action while Yandy was out there attempting to mend her reputation. Yandy's attempt to modify the tale had clearly failed. According to a person close to Mendeecees, he has already filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences and physical and emotional injury to his child, and he is no longer only pondering it. But it doesn't end there. Filed for Lil Mendeecees' complete custody. An informant said that Mies wants full custody since he doesn't trust Yandy around his son after what happened and thinks she is unstable. Given the circumstances, it seems likely that Mies will prevail in this case because, in addition to the proof of her actions, the public already supports N, and Yandy is at a loss for what to do. Producers from Love and Hip Hop are reportedly considering taking Yandy off the program because they don't want the negative publicity to damage their reputation. Moses is already setting up meetings with producers to get his spinoff. That's right, Mendeecees will take center stage while Yandy takes a backseat. And to be honest, she deserves it after what Yandy did. What are your thoughts? Does Yandy have any further plans, or is this the end for her? Given the current situation, Yandy may be down, but we all know she's not yet out. And believe me when I say that we'll be the first to know if there's going to be another twist. Please leave your ideas in the comments box as we need to discuss this. Remember to click like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications, because I promise you that this drama is everything but finished. Do you believe Yandy is finished for good, or does she still have one more move left? Do you believe Mendeecees' custody request is appropriate, Or is there more to this situation than we are aware of? More receipts will be available shortly, and when they... Oh, you and I will be right here. Watch this space for the exclusive.